overcomplicate dinners in Europe. Don't have tipping anxiety. Every time I'm at a restaurant, I think of one thing, and it's not what you might expect. Stick with me, I'll explain to you how, with that warm plate of pasta sitting right there in front of me, I think of you, the traveler, and how tricky navigating travel abroad can be. I want to talk about the old restaurant trap. You finished your beautiful meal here in Italy or anywhere in Europe, and the waiter says with a big smile, tips are welcome. But that's not really the reality here in Europe. It's not done like that. So what's happening? In some tourist-heavy areas, they've caught on to the American style, and they're hoping to get a few more bucks from you at the end of a dinner. I don't like this at all. Resist the urge to throw down 15 to 20% of the bill after a dinner. It's not done that way here in Europe at all. You only see it in the tourist-heavy areas, and I really don't like when waiters are asking in English for tip. If your bucks talk at home, well, here, muzzle the urge to throw out that cash. 15 to 20% at the end of a dinner, well, that's unnecessary, and if anything, culturally ignorant. Resist the urge. It's bad style. But I've seen you write down in the comments, what about the old service charge when it says servizio or servizio inclusivo, or if there's nothing there at all? But that doesn't mean you have to drop 20% on a restaurant bill after you finish your plate of pasta. Look at this. This is the old Medici horse stables right here. Further down that way is Palazzo Pitti, and then further to the north is the Arno River and Ponte Vecchio and the Old Town. So what do you do in that case? Well, don't drop down 20%. Reach into your pocket. If you have some coins, if you don't, no problem. You don't have to leave anything at all. But if you have some coins, drop some of these coins. Here we go right there. I got the old €1.50. Drop some coins and you're done. You're out of there. It's simple, Simon. Don't overcomplicate dinners in Europe. What are some other things to keep in mind as you're navigating around Italy or all throughout Europe? In the north of Europe or in the east, tips are usually included. Well, by that I mean service is usually included in the bill. If you see there at the restaurant where it says tip is not included, written in English, well, you know you've probably walked into a tourist trap. And if you see it before you walk in, don't walk into that restaurant. Take your business to another place. And if you've already had dinner and you see it there afterwards on the bill, don't fall into that trap. Don't leave extra money because it says tip is not included, written in English. They're trying to fool you, and I don't want you fooled. Cash is king when you're traveling in Europe, and when you're talking about leaving a tip. You need to have some shrapnel on hand, some coins. Don't ask them to break a 20 so you can leave some coins there on the table. Pull out your coins and see what you have in your hand. €1 or €2 per person at your table is okay. Throw down some coins. If you don't have that, don't stress about it. Now, in the Germanic countries, there you tip a little bit differently. You don't normally just throw your money down on the table after the dinner. Instead, when you're up at the cash register paying for your bill, if it's something like, say, €34, say to them, 35 please, and so they'll give you back the correct change on 35. That way you're tipping €1. I know it sounds ridiculous, just €1 on a dinner of that cost, but again, it's not like it is in the United States. Don't stress about it, don't overthink about it. That's the beautiful thing about traveling in Europe. Don't have tipping anxiety. We don't have that here. Throw down €1 or €2 and you're good to go. If you don't have it, that's okay too. No one's gonna look at you strange, and no one's gonna judge you on how you're tipping or if you're not leaving anything at all. I remember when I first moved here way back in the day, 20 years ago now, back in 2004, well, I was lost too. I didn't know what to do or what the customs were. I had to look through books. I was searching online. Back then we had MySpace, or I was asking around to some Italians who then I became friends with, getting their advice on how things are done. Slowly, or as we say here in Italy, piano piano, everything's piano piano in Italy. I traveled around the country and I began to learn all the customs, and then I began to travel all around Europe as well, and I learned all the ins and outs, all the little intricacies of how this continent works. The old continent, it's nothing like in the United States. If you are traveling to Italy and you want a little bit of extra help, I made an offline e-guide that you can have in your pocket on your phone for when you're traveling around Italy. It has things in there, yes, like tipping, but also all that other good stuff, antipasto, primo, secondo, dolce. It breaks down all the different courses, at what time you can expect to have lunch and dinner here in Italy, because believe me, it's not like it is in the United States, and the different drinks and how you should go about it and how you should enjoy it. If you want to check it out, there's a link for it in the description. But there are other things you should consider when you're traveling around, and not just eating at the restaurant. I want you to consider things like taxis. If the taxi driver is driving balls out to get you to the airport on time and helps with your bags as well, give him €1 or 2 extra. And if he goes that extra mile, €5 acceptable, but don't go crazy. If you think that your taxi driver is taking you the scenic route to get where you need to go, well, don't leave anything. In fact, it's okay to not leave anything at all. But if they go the extra mile, give them a little tip. At the hotel, you have your porters that might help out with your luggage. You can give them €1 or 2. If you have some extra coins when you're checking out of your room, what I often do, if I have those coins I don't want to carry around in my pocket, I just leave them there on the furniture as I walk out the door, so that way the cleaning person gets those extra coins. I like that. Other things to consider, you have your taxis, you have your hotels, and then you have things like local guides. Now, if you're at a public spot and you have a local guide giving their spiel on something, or if you're taking a bus trip, a bus tour that you've already paid for in advance, and there's someone speaking at the front of the bus, you can give them €1 or 2 euro, but don't feel that you have to give a lot in those instances. If they're holding out their hand at the end of a short speak there at a public fountain or in front of a cathedral, just holding out their hands, waiting for that tip, you don't have to do anything at all. Trust me on that. Now, for private tours that's been arranged and they're taking you around all day, speeding you along to the different sites that otherwise would take you hours to get to in that day, or maybe you wouldn't be able to see them at all in that day, well, they're really worth the extra bit of money, and I advise you to take those private guides because it gets you all around the cities where you need to go and quickly to maximize your time. Those guides are really worth it, and they're doing a heck of a job. So at the end of it, give them 5, 10, or maybe 15 euro. They're really going to appreciate it, and you're going to get a lot out of that private guide. Now, I don't need a tip for any of this, but if you've enjoyed it, if you enjoy all this information I'm putting out here and all the other videos as well, please give it a thumbs up down below. And if you want to make sure you're not going to miss out on any of my upcoming videos, well, click that subscribe button, join the community, click the notification bell while you're down there as well. That way you're not going to miss out on any of my upcoming videos. I get it. Tipping at home, you're throwing down 20% or something like that, especially in the United States. There's a lot of anxiety around it. But then you come here and you've heard the rules are different. If you're throwing down 20%, you're really upsetting the local culture here and expectations. You're going to throw things out of whack. So what I recommend, do as the locals do. And do you remember at the start of this video when I said, I'm always thinking of you every time I'm sitting down there having a plate of pasta? I'm hearing those other tourists, those other travelers at the table next to me whispering, hey, how much should we tip here at the end of the dinner? Well, I don't want you to have that stress. I don't want you to have the stress and anxiety of all of that. And I don't want you to have to face those restaurants where you walk in and they're saying tips are welcome, or the waiter asks you for a tip at all, which is why I make this video and I want to help you along on your travels. Now, believe me, I made all sort of mistakes in my days, rookie mistakes, things like money exchange and local phrases and customs, which is why I made this video here, so it'll help you out. Watch it next. I'll see you there. It's getting dark here. I think I'm gonna go get an aperitivo. Maybe a spritz.